Today we're going to be talking about one of the toughest female Marvel characters around. She's a master of martial arts, has an extensive history with the Avengers, and has faced off against some of the toughest villains in the galaxy, including Ultron and Thanos. Holy moly, who is it? Yeah, that's right. We're going to be talking about the real Mantis of Marvel Comics and point out why her on-screen portrayal is just so unfortunate. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Drax the Destroyer became known for being a bit too literal and not having a strong grasp on societal expectations, such as when he expressed surprise upon learning that murder is in fact illegal. So teaming up with another character who struggles to understand social constructs and expresses no small amount of naivety made sense. But his dynamic with Mantis, who the Guardians encounter in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, was honestly just sort of mean. While movie audiences may have enjoyed the empathetic Mantis, comic book fans were shocked at the drastic character change between the comics and the movie. This wasn't our first Marvel movie, and we know things are never going to be just like they are in the comics, but still, this rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way. We'll talk about the differences between the comic book and movie versions of Mantis in a bit, but first, let's look at why her portrayal in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Avengers Infinity War were so problematic. When the Guardians encounter Mantis, they learn she spent her entire life with her only master, Ego, for company. This has understandably left her more than a bit sheltered and naive, and she and Drax seem to have complementary personalities at first glance. Then the jokes started. We get that they're supposed to be funny, but all of Drax's lines are supposed to make us laugh are just about how hideous and disgusting he finds Mantis. The actress who plays Mantis, Pom Klementieff, is a beautiful woman, so the joke is that, while Drax finds her ugly, most other people would not. Except what's funny about that? Why is Mantis expected to be attractive? We don't hear Drax ever say such things to male characters, although they're surely unattracted to him judging by his standards. Not only is this frankly mean-spirited, but it reduces Mantis to nothing more than a walking punchline for Drax's particular brand of humor. Saying that Mantis is understated in the MCU is, in fact, an understatement. It's not unusual to see our heroes struggle in order to overcome seemingly impossible odds, and at some points, they may even doubt their own strength. Working to overcome your personal limits and save the day is kind of the trademark of a superhero, right? Except that worrying about her limitations is pretty much all Mantis does. She's frequently making self-deprecating statements, and not in a funny, witty, charming way meant to elicit a laugh from the audience. Mantis makes it clear she believes everyone around her to be much stronger than she is. During Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, she expressed her belief that Ego was too strong for her to subdue, and that Drax stepped in to assure her that she didn't need to believe in herself because he believed in her. First of all, what? Hey, Mantis, don't bother developing any sort of self-confidence or personal strength. Just trust in this man who has done nothing but insult you since the moment you met him, and everything will turn out great, promise. But despite this, Mantis is actually able to subdue Ego, a being who's one of the elders of the universe and an actual living planet. This is an incredible accomplishment and a dramatic show of strength which is really glossed over in the movie because, instead of receiving praise, Mantis gets to hear Drax tell her he never really had much faith in her abilities. During Infinity War, Mantis again fought against some of the biggest heavy hitters in the MCU. One of her few lines of dialogue were spent expressing uncertainty in herself and lamenting the strength of Thanos. The thing is, she nearly had him beat, and the team may have actually succeeded if Star-Lord didn't muck the whole plan up. Way to be, Pete. Out of all the superheroes fighting against Thanos, it's Mantis who spends time articulating how she believes she's too weak to take on the task, which she's clearly capable of. Her fellow female characters like Gamora, Scarlet Witch, and even Black Widow, who doesn't even have any superpowers, don't talk about themselves the way Mantis does. And we believe it's because of this that many Marvel fans have started to believe Mantis is weak as well. It's not unusual to see her listed among the weakest characters in the MCU, despite the fact that she held her own against Thanos and Ego. In case you think this is just us being particular, like we got a crush on Pom or something, you should know that even the creator of Mantis isn't happy about how she's being portrayed on the big screen. In the comic books, Mantis is a strong, kick-ass character who's been through some serious crazy things in her life. Writer Steve Englehart says he barely recognized his character when he saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and wondered why they'd even bother to call her Mantis at all. He stated, "That character has nothing to do with Mantis," and he said he had to pretend she was an entirely different character in order to enjoy the movie. That being said, Englehart admits the movie was entertaining, but the transformation of Mantis wasn't something he enjoyed. So who's the Mantis of the comic books? Who's so very different from the one we've seen on the big screen? Well, starting by forgetting absolutely everything you know about the movie Mantis would be a great start. In the comics, Mantis spent her childhood being trained by the Kree priests of Parma. becoming a talented and deadly master of martial arts. People in the MCU may not believe in Mantis, but the Kree sure did. They thought she may eventually become the Celestial Madonna, a being who'd eventually become the mother of a celestial messiah, who was expected to become the most important being in the world, but no pressure, Mantis. These priests of Parma augmented her mind, leaving her with powerful telepathic abilities in addition to her physical strength. Then, as soon as she hit 18, she forgot everything she had learned up until that point, and no, not in the typical high school senior way. Bro. Mantis had her mind wiped and false memories were implanted of her growing up as an orphan in Vietnam. The idea was that by letting her live a normal human life, she could bring this experience and understanding of human culture with her when she eventually became the Celestial Madonna. While working as a barmaid and an even more unsavory position, she makes the acquaintance of Jacques Duquesne, better known as the Swordsman. He was all washed up, having been inundated with gambling debts and resorting to criminal acts in order to pay for them. At one point, he was so desperate for money that he tried to join the Avengers not because he wanted to turn over a new leaf, but because he was trying to get access to bigger and more profitable crimes. That's like going to a bakery in order to work on your diet. Needless to say, it didn't go well for him. When he meets Mantis, the swordsman is at an all-time low, but she manages to get him to stop feeling sorry for himself and make another go at joining the Avengers for realsies this time. In the MCU, Mantis joins up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but doesn't meet the Avengers until Infinity War. But in the comic books, Mantis was an important member of the Avengers who took part in many epic battles. She fought against powerful characters like Loki, Dormammu, and the Collector. She wasn't a character who sat around hoping for the appeal of others, and she definitely wasn't someone whose appearance you wanted to poke fun of. In fact, the Mantis in the comic books was quite popular when it came to romance. She had an interest in Vision, despite the swordsman being head over heels in love with her. Oh, and remember that thing about her being the Celestial Madonna? Turns out that was true, and when word got around, suitors started coming out of the woodwork, including Kang the Conqueror. Although he was certainly passionate, we can't sanction his courting method, which involved no shortage of death threats. Swordsman ended up saving Mantis, but lost his own life in the process. Mantis did finally return his feelings as he lay dying, but we honestly doubt that took the edge off the whole situation. She buried her former best friend and formerly unrequited love interest in the Vietnamese temple where she grew up, but of course things still weren't peaceful. What with her being the fabled Celestial Madonna and all, so inevitably, there was more fighting. Followed by an interesting proposal from Immortus. He offered Mantis the chance to watch her own history play out, and even got a front seat pass to the beginning of the infamous Kree-Skrull War. Now here's where things get really weird, and that's saying something because all of this has been pretty darn strange so far. It turns out the swordsman's body was now inhabited by an elder Kotati, a member of an ancient race, so Mantis agreed to marry the Kotati, which again was an ancient creature living in the body of her former friend and last-minute love interest. The two of them got married and then left Earth to get the whole honeymoon thing started. No, really, they just pieced off the planet Poochie style, or at least their spirits did. Mantis returned to her body and to planet Earth in order to have the child, and then moved to a nice place in Connecticut. Truly the fairy tale romance all little girls dream of. Eventually, the Kotati people decided they could do a better job at raising the baby than Mantis, so they took custody, and Mantis decided to get her groove back by going on some adventures in outer space. Now, let's be honest. As much as we love Mantis and her crazy adventures in the comic books, we definitely don't expect all of this to be worked into the MCU. Sometimes things can get kinda weird in the MCU, but nothing like the true levels of insanity and convolution which can occur in the comic books. We love this kind of stuff, but also admit it's an acquired taste. We aren't disappointed that Marvel Studios didn't include Mantis being a Celestial Madonna, or marrying an ancient spirit who was inhabiting the body of her dead friend. It's just disappointing that movie Mantis isn't even vaguely recognizable when compared to the comic book version, and it's such a waste of the talents of actress Pom Klementieff, who plays Mantis on the big screen. She underwent months of martial arts training for her role as an assassin in the 2013 remake of Oldboy. And what do you know, in the comics, Mantis is an accomplished warrior. She's much more than just the butt of some jokes, and few people would consider her to be a weak character. Heck, in the comic book, she takes on Thanos all by herself without worrying if she's going to be strong enough to defeat him, while the Avengers just stand back and watch. The battle ended in a draw when Thanos teleported away. Not quite something you'd ever expect to see from the Mantis we've been shown in the MCU. Mantis is so great that, when Englehart briefly left Marvel Comics, he brought Mantis with him. Although Marvel doesn't really like to acknowledge it, she's also spent time in Eclipse, Image, and yes, even DC Comics. Her backstory is pretty wild, but it's not as though that's all we have of Mantis. She's been in tons of comic books, and director James Gunn have so much Mantis-related material to work with when he created Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But he diverged so much from her origin, he might as well have created an entirely new character to fight alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy. She doesn't have any fighting abilities in the movies, despite it being a huge part of her upbringing and personality in the comics. This this gal can take down Thor. But in the movies, we see her fretting about whether she's tough enough to fight alongside the Avengers and the Guardians? Come on, give us a break. At one point in the comic books, Kang the Conqueror says Mantis is the sort of woman who is never helpless. Yet in the movies, that's pretty much all we see her being. She doesn't have to be a celestial Madonna to be an awesome character. She could at the very least just have some confidence in herself. Comic book Mantis would definitely not put up with Drax's jokes, and frankly, we'd like the movie version to stand up for herself once in a while. Many female characters in both movies and comic books are little more than passive love interests, but Mantis truly overcame that stereotype in the comic books. Even when she was struggling with her feelings for Vision, she was never catty or combative with Scarlet Witch about it, and, in fact, was always looking out for her fellow women. We'd love to see more of that confident, strong Mantis make her way into the MCU. What do you think about the way Mantis is portrayed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Do you find her character problematic, or do you think she's perfect the way she is? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU content. Thanks for watching.